Yes, children, give thanks and praises to the Almighty Father, the ever-living God. Give the thanks and praises, oh Jah, children, give you thanks and praises.
Arise with us, SunShip, a spirit of the sun, SunShip, a moving on the one, SunShip, do what must be done, SunShip, arise with us, a spirit of the sun, do what must be done. Living on the one, arise with us, SunShip, spirit of the sun, SunShip, do what must be done, SunShip, do what must be done, SunShip.
The so-called Negro into thinking that he was free. And when you read some of the books that were written by the so-called Negro historian J.E. Rogers, one of his books, God, the Africa's Gift to America, he points out plainly how Abraham Lincoln did nothing but trick the Negro, fool the Negro, and use the Negro, the same as every other politician who has been in the White House has been tricking and fooling and using the Negro as a political football ever since America has been America.
Things have started to happen. The sun has begun to shine. Buffalo's bad weather is finally falling behind. We've just got to stand up, smile and let it show. Put ourselves on the one-yard line. Help build Buffalo. Help build Buffalo. Help build Buffalo. We're all here together, like buds in early spring, you see. Like a big family, we are part of the same tree. We've just got to stand up, smile and let it show.
African people have given to the world the deepest sense of soul power. Whether we are continental or diasporic Africans, our culture, body movement, musical expression, language, values, and spiritual expression reflect highly developed creation. Our past reveals the divine nature of our beings, kingdoms and queendoms where the spirit of the land was inseparable from the spirit of the people. As we move into the 21st century, let us move with Africa's grace and nobility, allowing our bodies to be vehicles for the spirit to manifest its beauty and creativity. It is essential for any complete healing process to move from the inside out. As the only true destruction comes from the inside out, the only true healing begins internally and moves out. Africans throughout the world have all the resources necessary to heal themselves and become whole again. It will take the collaboration of mind power, economic power, physical power, and most importantly, spiritual power to complete the circle of health. There must be a movement on all fronts, cleansing the body of the toxins we consume, creating education centers to kill the slave mentality and allow our genius to surface and develop. Financing companies that produce our own clothing, our own appliances, our own food. 2000 Black is about reaching into the past to pull forth the greatness of the ancestors, those whose very lives were celebrations of life, fertility, and soul. We, in this new age of artificiality and materialism, have mastered the art of making a living, but have no real idea as to how to live. Similarly, we are so busy ripping and running to make our deadlines that we have forgotten how to listen to our lifelines. As we begin to rediscover our lifelines, we find the child inside, clutching the solution. This is why the most important resource we have is our youth. They are our geniuses, our jewels, our untouched God power. Crucial to our survival in the 21st century is the development of our children. 2000 Black is a plan to bring forth that divinity that already exists inside of us. It is an expression of real purpose and truth. It is a movement towards the attainment of complete freedom, as we understand that freedom is love, is freedom. 2000 Black is a spiritual unity, as it works to develop sound individual universes that shall inevitably connect back into the one universe from which we all came. 2000 Black is a salute to the ancestors, the children, the earth, and the God force inside of every spirit.
Umoja, 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 that's unity. Umoja, that's unity. Kujichagulia, Kujichagulia, self-determination for you and me. Self-determination for you and me. Ujima, 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 Ujima. Collective works and responsibility. Collective works and responsibility. Ujima, Ujima, Ujima. Cooperative economics. Cooperative economics. Nia. 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 Nia, that's purpose for you and me. Nia, that's purpose for you and me. Kuumba. 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 Kuumba is creativity. Kuumba is creativity. Imani. Imani. I said Imani. Imani. Imani is faith in you and me. Imani is faith in you and me. I said Imani is faith in you and me.
This program is in honor of El Hajj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X, born May 19, 1925.
There has always been a desire to control the flow and type of information that enters the mind of black people. For it is information in books and other media that shapes our view of ourselves, of other people, and of the world. Even our image of the size of the countries and continents of the earth has been shaped by racist scholarship. The so-called Peter's World Map, which was produced with the support of the United Nations Development Program, makes this point. The traditional map distorts the world to the advantage of European colonial powers. The North, in actual fact, half as large as the South, appears on Mercator maps to be much larger. The traditional map was devised by Mercator in 1569 in Germany. It shows Europe larger than South America, which is almost double the size of Europe. It places Germany in the middle, even though it is in the northernmost quarter of the earth. The traditional map distorts not only Europe in relation to the world, the American continents also are shown in false proportions. Alaska appears about 3 times as large as Mexico, though in reality, Mexico is larger. The traditional map is skewed to the advantage of the Northern Hemisphere, where whites have traditionally lived. The Soviet Union appears to be more than double the size of Africa, in spite of the fact that Africa is actually much larger. The traditional map exaggerates the northernmost areas. As a result, southern areas seem small by comparison. Greenland appears to be larger than China, though China is actually 4 times as large. The traditional map distorts the world to the advantage of the countries in which white people predominate. Though Scandinavia appears to be larger than India, India is actually about 3 times larger. The traditional map is not compatible with objectivity, which is required in a scientific age. 2/3 of the map is taken up to represent the northern hemisphere, while the southern hemisphere is compressed into the remaining 1/3.
Something happens to us. Maybe it's in the school system. I don't know where we get the message, but we get it from somewhere that we aren't worth anything if we're not perfect. And particularly women and black people, people of African descent. And we have to start to use the words of a preacher or a minister rebuking that message, because it has no place in our lives. And it stops us from living our lives to the fullest.
Same brothers from a long time ago. We was talking about television and doing it on the radio. What we did was to help our generation realize they got to get out there and get busy because it wasn't going to be televised. We got respect for your rappers and the way they freewaying. But if you're going to be teaching folks things, be sure you know what you're saying. Older folks in our neighborhood got plenty of know-how. Remember, if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be out there now. And I ain't coming at you with no disrespect. All I'm saying is that you damn well got to be correct. Because if you're going to be speaking for a whole generation and you know enough to try and handle their education, be sure you know the real deal about past situations and ain't just repeating what you heard on the local TV station. Sometimes they tell lies and put them in a truthful disguise. But the truth is, that's why we said it wouldn't be televised. They don't know what to say to our young folks, but they know that you do. And if they really knew the truth, why would they tell you? The first sign is peace. Tell all them gun-toting young brothers, the man is glad to see us out there killing one another. We raised too much hell when they were shooting us down, so they started poisoning our mind and trying to jerk us all around. And then they tell us they got to come in and control our situation. They want half of us on dope and the other half in incarceration. If the ones they want dead ain't killed by what they instigated, they can put some dope on the brother's body and claim it was drug-related. Tell them drug-related means there don't need to be no investigation, or at least that's the way they're gonna play it on the local TV station. All your 9mm brothers, give them something to think about. Tell them you heard that this is the new word. They got to work that stuff out. Because somehow they feeling the wrong way with a gun in their hands. They're feeling real independent, but they just pulling contracts for the man. Average pride will tell you it's hopeless out there on the avenue, but if they really knew the truth, why would they tell you? And if they look at you like you're insane and they start calling you scarecrow and say you ain't got no brain, or start telling folks that you suddenly gone lame, or that white folks have finally co-opted your game, or worse yet, implying that you don't really know. That's the same thing they said about us a long time ago. Young rappers, one more suggestion before I get out of your way. But I appreciate the respect you give me and what you got to say. I'm saying protect your community and spread that respect around. Tell brothers and sisters they got to calm that bullshit down, because we're terrorizing our old folks and we brought fear into our homes, and they ain't got to hang out with the senior citizens. Just tell them, damn it, leave the old folks alone. And we know who's ripping off the neighborhood. Tell them that BS has got to stop. Tell them you're sorry they can't handle it out there, but they got to take the crime off the block. And if they look at you like they think you're insane, or start calling you scarecrow thinking you ain't got no brain, or start telling folks that you suddenly gone lame, or that white folks have suddenly co-opted your game, or worse yet, saying that you really don't know, that's the same thing they said about me a long time ago. And if they tell folks that you finally lost your nerve, that's the same thing they said about us when we said Johannesburg. But I think you young folks need to know things don't go both ways. You can't talk respect on every other song or just every other day. What I'm speaking on now is the raps about the women folks. On one song, she's your African queen, and on the next one, she's a joke. And you ain't said no words that I haven't heard, but that ain't no compliment. It only insults 8 people out of 10 and questions your intelligence. 4-letter words or 4-syllable words won't make you a poet. It will only magnify how shallow you are and that everybody know it. And if they look at you like they think you're insane, or they call you scarecrow thinking you ain't got no brain, or start telling folks that you suddenly gone lame, or that the white folks have finally co-opted your game, or you really don't know, they said that about me a long time ago. If they finally start telling people that you lost your nerve, that's what they said about Johannesburg. You ain't insane. You have got a brain. You haven't gone lame. You have got your game. Remember, keep the nerve, keep the nerve, keep the nerve, keep the nerve. We're talking about peace.
Earth blessings. Earth blessings we are. Earth blessings, earth blessings, earth blessings, earth blessings. Ayé ilé mi ò ìlú Áfíríkà ní gbogbo yín alẹ́ yẹ ká máa gbọ́ ká sílẹ̀ o.
Yoruba history. And our very last speaker is Brother Ilari Ogatuma. So like I said before, don't be afraid to clap. It's good encouragement.
Lafayette. That was not working. This one's working. Great. Okay. Hello, Miss Butts. Okay, how you doing? I hope everybody's had a nice time. We've prepared for this diligently and hard, and we hope that each of you have a nice time this evening. I'm a Yoruba. I was adopted by His Oba Osurgiman Adefumini Okan, the king of North and South America. Now you find Yorubas in Nigeria, Trinidad, Tobago, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Brazil, New Orleans, South Carolina, which is our home for the Oba, and in every major city, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, Philadelphia. The Yorubas have traced their ancestry directly back to what is called the pyramids. In our days and times, when all people were one, there was no need for separation. There came a time when there was need for separation. And during this separation, the many tribes that exist now were formulated. They were formulated by the priest who were the head of the temples of the Nile Delta region. And each priest took with him his family, his generals, because they were warriors, his extended family, which would be his in-laws, cousins, so on and so forth. And they each moved into the different regions of the continent that were applicable to their nature. When I say applicable to your nature, like in the Congo was King Kong. He was called a king, but his name was Konga. Hare Krishna of India was an Egyptian general. The Yorubas trace their ancestry to Edumare, who also was Pharaoh-born, or one of the high priests. We moved into Western Nigeria on a tract of land which was inhabited by other people. And you had people from the Nile Delta region who considered themselves children of the gods, so they felt that it was necessary for them to educate, not necessarily dominate, the classes of people that they came in contact with. The education being the habits of cleanliness, the approaches to understanding who and what you were in this world, herbal medicines, the use of colors, as in color therapy. Each color has a vibration. Each vibration has then in it all powers that relate to it. If we say that there are 9 planets in the universe and the sun is its center, or 9 known planets, then each planet has a color, a day, a time, flowers, plants, that it relates to. All of this history and magic has been known to black people throughout the ages. It is only because we lack the ability to pass this information on to one another, as to say whether or not the masses and the roots get put into each one of our hands. Those who want to know will find out. Those who don't won't. And we believe that this is a reality in life, and because it is a reality, we feel that just as in this gathering here, there are people that are here of all nations and of all colors. that doesn't mean that you don't have an African conscience. An African conscience simply means that you have a free spirit, that you have the ability to want to think for yourself, the ability to understand that how you think for yourself must fit into the community that you live in. Once you have that understanding, then things like the Ten Commandments have no meaning, because you will honor and obey. You will not steal. These are things that have no meaning at this point. There is no need for the necessity of teaching one the necessary habits of keeping oneself clean, simply because you will do this out of your natural habitat. But all of that has to do with a basic education that if you don't receive it from birth, then it has to be your own natural ability for you to perceive it and to come out here in the world and face opposition. In this world, we have, and I like this, to say when we have all types of people. You have all types, all mentalities. Educational quotients don't mean a thing. If you smart and ain't got 10 cents, it don't mean nothing, you know. If you got 10 cents and you ain't smart, that still don't mean nothing. It's simply a matter of taking what you have and your abilities and sharing these abilities with other people. By taking other people into your life, as they say, being community broad, then there is a chance that things like what we have here this evening will not stop. They will continue, they will thrive, they will grow, simply because a good idea does not die. An idea is not a person, you know. An idea is not just a thought either. Without people, good ideas go no further than just simply that. So, I'm glad everyone has come out this evening. If you have any questions about Yoruba history or Yoruba technology or anything that I didn't say that you know I should have said, please put your hand up, ask your question, or I'll say, and we'll get ready for the jazz. Okay? Okay.
Located in a deeply wooded region of the South Carolina Lowcountry, famous for its Geechee blacks and their Gullah dialect. This was, before the Civil War, a region of great wealth derived from massive slave labor. Now it is a haven for retiring generals and tourist resorts. But it still has its great reputation for root doctors, mossy oak trees, and bountiful shrimp waters. And since the decade of the 70s, this internationally famous African village. Oyotunji was founded under the sign of Libra by the great Orisha voodoo priest Ofuntala Adefumi and his then head wife, the beautiful voodoo priestess Oshun Bumi Olafemi. It is now the sacred village for nearly 500 Orisha voodoo priests and priestesses, a core of whom live at Oyotunji, and many of whom are scattered throughout America. But wherever they may live, all of these mystical tribes folk trace their cultural origins from Oyotunji all the way back across the oceans to the Yoruba peoples of Nigeria, West Africa. Among the many rites and ceremonies which these Yoruba Americans have inherited from their ancestors, who arrived as enslaved captives from the Yoruba kingdoms of Nigeria, is a form of ancestral worship known as Egungun. Although the Yoruba word Egungun means bones, an ancestral Egungun is actually a very elaborately dressed masquerade, which represents a recently deceased individual. It may represent the collective dead of an entire clan, or it may embody the spirit of some noble figure out of the ancient past. In ancient times, in the kingdom of the Yoruba people of Nigeria, when a man or woman died and had been properly buried beneath the floor of their bedroom for 9 days, their ghosts in the form of Egungun would come forth out of a dense forest grove known as the Bush of Ghosts. The Egungun was escorted by a troop of drummers and chanters singing eulogies and anecdotes in praise of the deceased of its family clan. This troop of funeral musicians belonged to a special secret society known as Egbe Egungun. The leader of the Egbe Egungun is known as the Alagba, which means chief of the elders. It may be of interest to students of Afro-American studies to point out that the tradition of funeral musicians was continued in America, notably at New Orleans, Louisiana, by burial lodges, who escorted the casket of the deceased to its final resting place. Their unique type of funeral music was known as jazz. Meanwhile, the traditional Egungun society paraded its dancing, twisting ghosts around the compound of its living descendants and relatives, where, amidst much singing, dancing, and feasting, it bestowed its final blessing and received its last obeisance before departure for the kingdom of the spirits. It fully expected to return the next year for the first of an ever-continuing series of annual funerals. Africans in general, and the Yoruba in particular, cannot accept that the spirits of the departed must be consigned to the sad oblivion of an eternal rest, nor do they believe in the existence of a place of eternal damnation, such as the hell of the Christians. In point of fact, the Yoruba believe that the spirits of the dead are anxious to return to human life through cycles of rebirth into their former family clan. Meanwhile, they continue to exist in another dimension rather than another place, and so they haunt the places where they once lived and are intensely concerned with family matters, expecting to be informed and invited to all important family events. But they can be aroused to violent and vengeful anger when they are ignored or forgotten, and they may completely reduce to ruin or tear us under the lives, the homes, and the fortunes of their forgetful descendants. It is for this reason that the Yoruba celebrate the birth of every new child as the reincarnation of some one of their ancestors. And it is for this reason also that shrines and temples abound for the fertility gods and goddesses. And like Hinduism, a strong current of sensuousness pervades the entire religion and its worshipers.
the young lady that I believe she's going to be a star one day. She was trying everything that they were doing on stage. Then she got a little shy. Yeah, wonderful. That's what we're talking about, family. You know, personal tradition, from mother to daughter to son, and so on, is our responsibility. Most important of all is what we have read and heard in songs about this wonderful four-letter word, L-O-V-E, love. And reading about all of the masters, I think, one who came and observed things and said, love thy neighbor as thyself. It is probably one of the, is the greatest of all the laws. It is the hardest of all. It is the one that you and I cannot give up upon. In our tradition, there's a saying, you are the only one who know for sure the one and those that you love. But it might take you a lifetime to find out those who really love you. Ìjà ló dé lórí dòwe. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next year. But you cannot afford to give up on love. It's a great task on all of us, without any exclusion. So, do we take a look at the other side of the coin? Maybe that particular aunt, that cousin, call upon you all the time, and you're always there. But once in a while, does he really care? Does she really, think I'm doing the right thing? I'm always there.
Often, I think our community overlooks some folks who have the answers right there in their lap, and we just don't go to them. And a noted historian and one of our great educators, John Henrik Clark, is here tonight. And Dr. Clark wanted to say something. Doctor, I'm going to give you the mic and give you an opportunity to say something to us, please.
Okay. Look, thank you very much. Remember, I'm a school teacher, and I speak like a school teacher. The missing piece here is how we got into this predicament. So in the classroom, the first thing I come to is to let the student know what's behind it all. All history is a current event. Everything that ever happened continued to happen. In the 15th and the 16th century, Europe rose from the lethargy of the Middle Ages, discovered maritime skill, mostly preserved by Africans and Arabs in Spain. And because of the arguments between the Africans and the Arabs in Spain over the puritanical Islam, those friends, former friends, turned on each other. And the Africans, who were the military arm of maintaining the Arabs in the Mediterranean and in Spain, was then turned on, and the Arabs began to sell their African friends into slavery. The first Africans to be sold into slavery in the New World did not come from Africa, but came from Mediterranean Spain and the countries of the Mediterranean. 1455, the Pope told Spain and Portugal, you are both authorized to reduce to servitude all infidel people. The Catholic Church had officially endorsed the slave trade. The Arabs were in the slave trade before Islam, and they are in the slave trade right now. If I didn't know the documents on it, I wouldn't say it. I'm a school teacher. You can only say publicly what you can prove. When England entered the trade, they not only began to conquer most of the world, they conquered information about the world. They began to conquer history. And they began to declare war on African culture and African history and African ways of life. The Muslims had done this 1,000 years before. The Arab slave trade was 1,000 years old before the European slave trade started. The Arabs welcomed them into Africa, the Africans welcomed them into Africa, thinking the Arabs would get the Romans off of their back, which indeed they did. But the Arabs replaced the Romans on their back, and they're still on their back. So you can deal with whites, but you can't deal with pseudo-whites. As the British colonized history, they colonized image. They painted everything in the Bible white. They colonized the image of God. They programmed your mind so you couldn't conceive of God being anything other than white. The Pope commissioned Michelangelo to paint a picture of Christ. His cousin posed as Christ. And that picture that hangs in your church is Michelangelo's cousin. No, wait a minute. I'm going to finish soon and let you ask me a question. Look, when you worship a God that don't look like you, you lose respect for the black father in your home. Before all of this happened, the structure of African society was based on the family. And they built society so good there was no word for jail because no one had ever gone to one. Then they became imitators of foreign garbage. What is happening was the conquest, not so much as your land, they did that, but the conquest of your mind.
Last thing, it would be a great remiss if we didn't take our chance to put on the record. They ratified a resolution that I proposed, which was for economic sanctions against non-black businesses for the months of November, December, and January. This must be. Now, I've been attacked right here in the black press for suggesting that in Washington by the Negro element in African clothes, but that's all right. We must, and I ask you to ratify a resolution that calls for economic sanctions against non-black businesses for those 3 months, because that's the months that 60% of all goods are sold. And if we were ever to punish the whites, this is something anybody can do. All you gotta do is hold your pockets. You don't even have to say nothing. You don't have to believe in it. You might not be spending nothing no way. At least take pride now in not being able to do it. So I hope all of you would be willing to do that, so that when they go away, they know it's some economic retaliation on the buffer. And in closing, the New York Times, almost a year ago today, April 18th, 1993, Sister Nana, openly advocated the recolonization of Africa, and I want to say them just to that, because, stop, because the audacity of trying to draw question about our brother and his statements about Africa, when in fact you are on the record a year ago yesterday. Colonialism is back, and not a moment too soon. Some countries are not yet fit to govern themselves, and then they end by saying, we're going to get Africa. So I know that, brother, you stepped on a wire of theirs that they didn't really want attention being focused on, but we want to let them know that we have not forgotten them, and that we know them with the Council on Foreign Relations.
We don't teach you to turn the other cheek. We don't teach you to turn the other cheek in the South, and we don't teach you to turn the other cheek in the North. We teach you to obey the law. We teach you to carry yourselves in a respectable way. But at the same time, we teach you that anyone who puts his hand on you, do your best to see that he doesn't put it on anybody else.
Bless me, mighty Jaja, bless me, so that they can curse me. Bless me, mighty Jaja, bless me, yeah.
When you realize you have this army or one concept, one thought, one movement, one action, you have what is called a revolution. But the more we stay separated, and the more we don't understand the concept of the I that is within all of us, then we will constantly lose in every single battle from day one to day forever.
Rude boys, be wise.
Understand, this is for all of my ancestors who were raped, who were killed, and hung because of their plight for freedom and for dignity. They died for me, and they died for you. This is for them.
We are hey yo. We are hey yo. We are hey yo. We are hey yo. We are oh hey ya. Know the earth and the wind, know the sun and the pain, know the sea and the joy, know the life all around. We are oh hey ya.
Song seems to me to be a special way of expressing or joining in with the natural rhythm, the natural song of the earth, song of life. So you sing, birds sing, animals sing, alligators sing probably. Though sometimes we don't hear it, we may be distracted and not be willing to.
Longer than usual. We were playing at a wedding earlier, and this first song we're going to sing is which we open this, I guess, blessed he's a painting by his artist. So we're going to sing a Leonard Peltier song, an honor song that was dedicated to him and a symbol of a struggle that he's representing here. What happened over 20 years ago now. So sing this song. Explain who the song reflects. And thank Alan for inviting us out here this evening, and hope you like singing.
We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-oh-ha, we-ah-oh-hey-ah-na-ya. Know the earth and the wind, know the sun and the pain, know the sea and the joy, know the life all around. We-ah-oh-ha, we-ah-oh-hey-ah-na-ya.
Song seems to me to be a special way of expressing or joining in with the natural rhythm, the natural song of the earth, song of life. So you sing, birds sing, animals sing, alligators sing, probably. Though sometimes we don't hear it, we may be distracted and not be willing to listen to the natural music of the earth. But Indian people continue it as a tradition of joining in with the rhythm of the earth and listening to themselves. Much of these songs has to do with breathing, how one's blood pulses, how your heart beats, and the rhythms of animals, of the wind speaking, singing, the thunder, the sounds that are made by the earth, the kind of language that people speak, anything really. Song gives a added dimension to how we express ourselves and how we realize ourselves.
We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah-oh-ha. We-ah-oh-ha, we-ah-oh-hey-ah-na.
Very experience. Very powerful. Beautiful sense of community.
You may remember that in the 1800s, the late 1800s, the Paiute holy man, or Roka, had a vision. In his vision, he was told that if all the people danced long enough and hard enough, they would fall out, and they too would have a vision. And in that vision, the buffalo would return to the plains, the European would return to Europe, and everything would be good again. Well, we know that didn't happen. What did happen, on a very cold morning of 1890, a peaceful band of people were massacred by the troops of the 7th Cavalry in revenge for death custom.
Trinity of
here in this particular poem, I'm trying to dance back the beauty and the nourishment of Mother Earth. In the poem, I use a couple of words which perhaps I should explain. I use the word Father. Of course, I mean the Creator. And then you have Mother. Of course, I mean the series of dots. Brother. And I'm speaking of the two-legged, the wiggeds, and those in the center.
We have the symbol of a thunderbird, or a circle, and a cross, which ancient Egyptian would be.
I am the sun, a song of praise, defiance, and determination. And I take a quote from Black Elk. I did not know then how much was ended. When I look back from this high hill of old age, I can see the butchered women and children lying heaped and scattered along the...
From a CD named Dancing on John Wayne's Head. Or talking. Or talking. Or talking. Or talking. Strength from our ancestry. First Nation man. First Nation woman. This is not the time to weep. This is the time to seek a way out. No time to discuss Columbus' discovery, to talk about his story. First Nation man, First Nation woman. Time to powwow about how to regain the land. Cause there can be no justice on stolen land. No brotherhood with the white man until the First Nation regain the land. Let the arrows of freedom fly, 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 fly. 500 years of tears have not washed away the memories. From the east, from the west, from the north, from the south, shout! Let your voices be heard. Rise, warriors, rise, rise. Let the arrows of freedom fly. Keep on struggling. Remember, tears cannot materialize your dreams. Remember, Oka, take a stand. Man, you've been struggling so long. First Nation woman, you've been struggling so long. Persist, resist. No justice on stolen land. No brotherhood with the white man onto the First Nation land. Return to the original man. Oka! Let the spirit of Oka spread throughout the land. Continue struggle. Resist, persist, throughout the land. Remember, attacking, strength from our ancestry. No justice, this on stolen land. No brotherhood with the white man until First Nation man, woman control the land.
We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-oh-ha, we-ah-oh-hey-ah-na-ya. Know the earth and the wind, know the sun and the pain, know the sea and the joy, know the life all around. We-ah-oh-ha, we-ah-oh-hey-ah-na-ya.
Song seems to me to be a special way of expressing or joining in with the natural rhythm, the natural song of the earth, song of life. So you sing, birds sing, animals sing, alligators sing, probably. Though sometimes we don't hear it, we may be distracted and not be willing to listen to the natural music of the earth. But Indian people continue it as a tradition of joining in with the rhythm of the earth and listening to themselves. Much of these songs has to do with breathing, how one's blood pulses, how your heart beats, and the rhythms of animals, of the wind speaking, singing, the thunder, the sounds that are made by the earth, the kind of language that people speak, anything really. Song gives a added dimension to how we express ourselves and how we realize ourselves.
We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah-oh-ha. We-ah-oh-ha, we-ah-oh-hey-ah-na-yo.
This one particular song I learned from a bird. It was in California, where I lived for 5 years. I liked to run, and I would go down to the beach early in the morning. Sometimes there would be no one there. There'd be nobody out there except the ocean coming upon to the shore and the seabirds around there. But one day I was running along, tired, and I heard this bird, a tern, make this little song. It went something like this. Just that. And then I began to compose a melody to it using just that.
We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-oh-ha, we-ah-oh-ha, na-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah-oh-ha. We-ah-oh-ha, we-ah-oh-hey-na-ya. See the sea, see the sky, see the land, see the sea. We-ah-ha, we-ah-ha, we-ah, hey-yo. We-ah-oh-ha, we-ah-oh-ha, we-ah-oh-hey-na-yo.
There's other verses, but that's an example of a song that came to me just by listening to that. I think a lot of songs must come from such rhythms and melodies that the earth shares with us, and people who listen carefully can learn these things. And by example of this song, by being tuned in, merely means acknowledging that relationship that we must have. It's a good philosophical view to have, I think. And Indians with their ritual, especially their dances, especially their dance and rituals, which is simply expressing one's self, is giving a energy back into the earth. We use its energy, we give our energy back into it. Prayer works in the same way.
Song is a special way of joining in with the natural rhythms of the earth, and Native American music has always been closely related to nature. Often, song is like prayer, an offering of the people gathered with one heart and one mind to share in a celebration of life.
Yes, now through November 7th, artworks by Leonard Peltier at the Tri-Main Center, 2495 Main Street. On the 5th floor, the Tri-Main Building, Monday through Friday, 4 to 7 p.m. Local native artist works are also shown. This program shows portions of the opening show presentation. This is a beautiful exhibit and one not to be missed. There is a strong connection between Native American and African American people. The Native people have, within their historical culture, made significant interactions with African people arriving in this country. The Native American culture has a tradition of welcoming and engaging other cultures. A traditional welcome or condolence ceremony was reenacted by local indigenous people with members of the African American community. There were presents given and an acceptance and appreciation of the welcome. The ceremony increased the cultural understandings of all and heightened sensitivity and respect for the relationship of African American and Native American peoples.
I am the sun, a song of praise, defiance, and determination. Father, I come. Mother, I come. Brother, I come. Father, give us the arrows. Chong Peo Pai Wak Pala. Father, I hold one for Bigfoot. Mother, I hold one for black coyote. Brother, I hold one for yellow bird. Father, give us back our arrows. Chong Peo Pai Wak Pala. Father, give us sky. Father, give us sun in the east. Father, give us night in the west. Father, watch our shadows. Father, give us back our arrows. Jong Peo Pai Wak Pala. Mother, your breast is bare. Mother, your breast was not enough to sustain us. Mother, hold our bones now. Mother, we search for our arrows. Jong Peo Pai Wak Pala. Brother, we cried for you. Brother, we called you back. Brother, we descended with you and your flesh and your bones and your fur which kept us.
Bless me, so that they can curse me. Bless me, mighty Jaja, bless me, yeah.
When you realize you have this army or one concept, one thought, one movement, one action, you have what is called a revolution. But the more we stay separated, and the more we don't understand the concept of the I that is within all of us, then we will constantly lose in every single battle from day one to day forever.
Rude boys, be wise.
Understand, this is for all of my ancestors who were raped, who were killed, and hung because of their plight for freedom and for dignity. They died for me, and they died for you. This is for them.
That's a planet about the water.
When Dorothy Counts was spattered by the mob as she was trying to go to school, that was the day I decided I was coming home. And I came home, to see, to do whatever I could do.
That's a lack of tree. That's a planet without the water.
When I went south and I began to deal with a reality which had always been incipient in me but never been expressed or objectified, I fell in love with those people. And I was very happy to be south, even though it was very frightening. Something in me recognized it. Something in me had come home.
You live in, brother. He's not even teaching me about the future of my people. What you going to school for then, dummy? We don't even have a country. I know that. Do we have a country? He's ignorant. It's your country, which is not your country. You have no flag, brother.
A boy last week, who was 16, told me on television. Thank God we got him to talk. Maybe somebody will start to listen. He said, I got no country, I've got no flag. Now, he's only 16 years old. And I couldn't say you do. I don't have any evidence to prove that he does. And in the moment you are born, since you don't know any better, every stick and stone and every face is white. And since you have not yet seen a mirror, you suppose that you are too. It comes as a great shock around the age of 5 or 6 or 7 to discover that the flag to which you have pledged allegiance, along with everybody else, has not pledged allegiance to you. It comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you. It comes as a great shock to discover that the country, which is your birthplace, and to which you owe your life and your identity, has not in its whole system of reality evolved any place for you.
And the other direction by his moral need to do what he was also good at, which was to preach. That is, to preach the gospel of equality, to preach the gospel of revolution, if you want to call it that.
He once said that he left the pulpit in order to preach the gospel, and in a certain sense that's true.
Everything now, we must assume, is in our hands. We have no right to assume otherwise. If we, and now I mean the relatively conscious whites and the relatively conscious blacks, if we do not falter in our duty now, we may be able, handful that we are, to end the racial nightmare and change the history of the world. If we do not dare everything. The fulfillment of that prophecy, recreated from the Bible in songs by former slaves, is upon us. God gave Noah the rainbow sign, no more water, fire next time.
Did you have any idea that this was going to be a kind of live grenade tossed, at least into the white world?
It didn't occur to me at all. Isn't that funny? Not at all. I wrote it as a kind of, as I repeat, a kind of plea to black people and to white people about this country.
What he did was to write it in language that fairly educated white middle-class people could understand, and I think he led many of them to change their ways, to become more sympathetic to civil rights.
He was becoming very distinctly one of the most, certainly, if not the most eloquent early spokesman for the black movement.
I don't know what most white people in this country feel, but I can only include what they feel from the state of their institutions. I don't know if white Christians hate Negroes or not, but I know that we have a Christian church which is white and a Christian church which is black. I know, as Malcolm X once put it, that the most segregated hour in American life is high noon on Sunday. That says a great deal for me about a Christian nation. It means that I can't afford to trust most white Christians and certainly cannot trust the Christian church. I don't know whether the labor unions and their bosses really hate me. That doesn't matter, but I know I'm not in their unions. I don't know if the real estate lobby is anything against black people, but I know the real estate lobbies keep me in the ghetto. I don't know if the Board of Education hates black people, but I know the textbooks they give my children to read and the schools that we have to go to. Now, this is the evidence. You want me to make an act of faith, risking myself, my wife, my woman, my sister, my children, on some idealism which you assure me exists in America, which I have never seen.
I think part of his disillusionment was that some of these people in New York weren't really liberals. I mean, blacks were the first ones to attack liberalism.
It's up to you. As long as you think you're white, there's no hope for you. As long as you think you're white, I'm going to be forced to think I'm black.
We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream.
Jimmy Baldwin was in the tradition. And people are always saying to me, for instance, why is your poetry, why is your play so political? But that's our tradition. You know, whether you're talking about Frederick Douglass or W.B. Du Bois or Zora Neale Hurston or, Toni Morrison or Alice Walker, that's our tradition. And why is our tradition? Because not only is it our tradition, even from Africa, to include society as the focus of art, you see, as its principal focus, the development of society. But as an oppressed people, we have no other choice but to fight.
There are days, this is one of them, when you wonder what your role is in this country and what your future is in it. From my point of view, no label and no slogan and no party and no skin color, and indeed no religion, is more important than the human being.
Do you feel the Broadway stage is a good place
to get across your views on the race relations question?
Well, yes. You know, I don't want to get involved in a long discussion of the American theater, which is another story. But yes, I do. I'm very glad that we are opening on Broadway. I hope it shakes up a few people.
Richard? Richard, I want to help you. I want to help you more than anything else in this world.
How?
Well, just like I used to. I won't let you go anywhere without me.
Boy, you're still determined to get your neck broke, huh?
Yes. Yes, well, it's neck-breaking time.
Oh, morning, son. You up early? Sleep well?
Yeah, okay. Boy, where you off to looking so sharp? Looks like you might be going to meet the man.
Going down to the mayor's office. We're getting a biracial committee started.
Oh, Daddy. Why you knocking yourself out trying to have a cup of coffee with Mr. Charlie? He don't want you. What you want with him?
Now, there's a whole lot more to it than that. If you stick around here long enough, you'll see what I mean.
Yeah, well, don't let me hold you up.
Need anything downtown, Mama?
Oh, no, thank you, son.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
How about you, son? Need anything? Like me to bring anything back for you?
Well, there are a lot of things I need, Daddy, but I ain't too sure you could bring them back.
Well, you certainly learned to be pretty insolent up north, didn't you? Well, you just forget all that, son. Start remembering you're back home. I'm still your father. Yeah, and I can still knock you down.
You're gonna be late, Daddy.
Born in Harlem in 1924, when it was a very different place than it is now. My father came from New Orleans. My mother came from Maryland. And if they had waited, 2 more seconds, I might have been born in the South. The first house I remember was on Park Avenue, which is not the American Park Avenue, or maybe it is the American Park Avenue.
Uptown Park Avenue.
Uptown Park Avenue, where the railroad tracks are. We used to play on the roof, and I can't call it an alley, but near the river. It was a kind of dump, garbage dump. Those were the first scenes I remember. I remember my father had trouble keeping us alive. There were 9 of us, and I was the oldest, so I took care of the kids and dealt with Daddy. I understand much better now. Part of his problem was he couldn't feed his kids. But I was a kid and I didn't know that. And he was very religious, very rigid. In fact, in a word, he wanted power. He wanted Negroes to do, in effect, what he imagined white people did. That is to own the houses, to own U.S. Steel. And this is what, in effect, killed him, because there was something in him which could not bend. He could only be broken. You think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world. But then you read. It was books that taught me that the things that tormented me the most were the very things that connected me with all the people who were alive or who had ever been alive. I went to the 135th Street Library at least 3 or 4 times a week. And I read everything there. I mean, every single book in that library. In some blind and instinctive way, I knew that what was happening in those books was also happening all around me. And I was trying to make a connection between the books and the life I saw and the life I lived. I knew I was black, of course, but I also knew I was smart. I didn't know how I would use my mind, or even if I could. But that was the only thing I had to use. And I was going to get whatever I wanted that way. And I was going to get my revenge that way. So I watched school where I watched the streets, because part of the answer was there.
I got something from school today, and Mom said I should show you.
History of New York, huh?
I wrote it over and over again, and I had to read a lot of books about it.
Might have been nice if you'd written something about the Bible. Something about your own people and God.
I will next time, sir.
I'll tell you this. My father frightened me so badly, I had to fight him so hard that nobody has ever frightened me since. And I went into the church, partly because I'd been driven there all my life. And my father had always determined that I would be a preacher. I'd always said I wouldn't be. But life outwitted me, you know, and corroborated him. Because at that point in my life, there was no place for me to go. I had no intention ever of becoming a preacher, of entering that terrifying church which I spent nearly 14 years by that time trying to get out of. But I was so afraid of everything else that in a way I ended up with the devil I knew, though I couldn't have said it then.
Amen. You don't have to have no title behind your name just to go tell somebody Jesus loved you. Amen. You don't have to have a title behind your name say Jesus saved, that Jesus delivered, that he set free today. But you got to take what he's giving you and put it to good use. Amen. You can go to school all you want to, get all kind of DDs and PhDs and whatever else you want behind your name. But if you don't take that and put it to good use, it's worthless. Amen. Amen.
I've been a boy preacher for 3 years. And at those 3 years, really, in a sense, you know, those 3 years in the pulpit, I didn't realize it then. That is what turned me into a writer, really. Dealing with all that anguish and that despair and that beauty. For those 3 years, you know, I left because I didn't want to cheat my congregation. I knew I didn't know anything at all. And I couldn't leave, I had left the pulpit, I had to leave home. So I left the pulpit and I left home the same day. That was quite a day. And, well, in a sense, I became a writer because I thought if I got through, my old man would be proud of me, you know. I started writing when I was very, very young. I started being published when I was about 22. And once I was out of Harlem, I began to see, well, I was a book reviewer, you know. Wrote some of the early essays in that time. But I'd written myself into a wall. I was expected to write about one subject only. So for 2 years I reviewed all those post-war Be Kind to Colored People, Be Kind to Jews books. All 47,000 of them came across my desk. And I simply had to go, you know, and try to figure out what in the world was happening to me. Negroes were not served here, Negroes cannot eat there. Well, if you were a Negro, there was nothing you could do at all. And one evening, something happened to me, which frightened me ever since. And it was simply that I walked into a restaurant where I knew I would not be served. But I walked in with the determination to be served or to die. And I waited. I wasn't served, of course. The woman said, poor little girl, said that Negroes were not served here. And I wanted to kill her, but I couldn't get close enough to her, so I threw a glass of water at her. And when the glass of water hit the mirror behind the bar, I woke up. It was a terrible turning point in my life. I never forgot it because it was the first time in my life that I ever wanted really to hurt anybody. That drove me finally out of the country. ever did in my life, I think, was, in effect, flee America and go to Paris in 1948. And it gave me time to vomit up a great deal of bitterness. At least I could operate in Paris without being menaced socially. No one cared what I did. It was very significant. The first thing I wrote in Paris, once I caught my breath, was everybody's protest novel. You know, to get that behind me and to find out what I could really do, you know, if I really was a writer instead of a pamphleteer.
I think the next thing that really was impressed on me, because I had been reading some things, was Notes of a Native Son, when that book came out. It impressed me because a young black man, you know, whose picture looked like he was earnest and serious about what he was saying. And I think he was impressive on a whole generation of black people, not just writers.
I was very lucky. First thing I realized in Paris was that you don't ever leave home. You take your home with you. You better, you know. Otherwise, you're homeless.
France was not without its race prejudices. It simply didn't have any guilt vis-a-vis black Americans. And black Americans who went there, from Richard Wright to Sidney Bechet, were so colorful and so talented and so marvelous and so exotic. Who wouldn't want them? Of course. But among the people they did not want in France were the Algerians. As Jimmy said, they were the niggers of France. To him, they were his brothers. He was very outspoken during the Algerian War, when they were trying to win their freedom from France in the 50s. He wrote about the Algerians in this excerpt from No Name in the Street. I had come to Paris with no money, and this meant that in those early years, I lived mainly among les miserables. And in Paris, les miserables are Algerian. They scraped such sustenance as they could off the filthy, unyielding stones of Paris. The French called them lazy, but they were not lazy. They were mostly unable to find work, and their rooms were freezing. And although they spoke French and had been, in a sense, produced by France, they were no more at home in Paris than I.
The world is held together, really it is held together, by the love and the passion of very few people.
Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will.
So Jimmy escaped the problem by going to Turkey, of all places, where he had been invited by a friend, a Turkish actor whom he had met in New York.
There is something in this land. There is something ancient that Jimmy felt was as ancient as his African blood. It's silly to say that he felt he was near his roots, but he felt he was near some roots as valid as his. The old city, it reminded him of Harlem, I think. The people, the faces, the warmth, the smell, the crowd, the noise, you know, everything. He loved the book market. He reminded him of his childhood days, perhaps, in Harlem.
And when I was living in Istanbul, I don't want to be romantic about poverty. is not pretty. Nevertheless, the Turks, the people I was dealing with, who had nothing, reminded me of the people I grew up with who had nothing, who would give you anything. Really, the shirt off their back, money, bread.
In this passage from Another Country, a white character in a taxi is riding through Harlem. He's talking about his best friend, a black friend, who has died, and he speaks of the black family's reaction to his presence. Quote, "I walked into that house and they were just sitting there, Ida and her mother and her father, and there were some other people there, relatives maybe, and friends. I don't know. No one really spoke to me, except Ida, and she really didn't say much. And they all looked at me as though, well, as though I had done it. And, oh, I wanted so badly to take that girl into my arms and kiss that look off her face and make her know I didn't do it. I wouldn't do it. Whoever was doing it to me, too." Another Country is about blacks and whites trying to connect, trying to respect each other, trying desperately to love each other.
If everyone had been in love, they treat their children differently. They treat each other differently.
Yes, well, but perhaps that is one of the points in Another Country, which it seems to me as much about love as about anything else.
It is about love.
It's more. It is
It's about the price of love, too.
Which is the price of life.
Yes, but people don't seem to realize that.
Much to Jimmy's surprise, Another Country turned out to be his most successful book yet. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for weeks and weeks. It was even translated into more than 24 languages. And that, of course, made Jimmy very happy. Most especially because it would make it possible for Yashar Kemal, his great friend, to read the book.
At least before the civil rights movement, as long as they thought he was advocating a kind of, Dr. King nonviolence, that was okay. They could at least, admit him, to the edge of the pantheon marked colored. But once Blues Mr. Charlie came out, and he actually, that play is about class struggle. There's a Dr. King character, there's a Malcolm X character. They're struggling for influence over the students, which is real life, struggling for, SNCC and the Carmichaels and the Rap Browns.
The reason, perhaps, that Blues for Mr. Charlie was considered such a terrible thing, because this man spoke the truth. He spoke the truth. I mean, he didn't pretty it up. He didn't color it up. He spoke the truth the way it was, the way he saw it, the way he knew it. That's perhaps why he was called a propagandist by many. They just didn't want to deal with what he was saying.
Now, Richard, you can't go through life believing that all the suffering in the world is caused by white people.
Yeah, I can't. Don't you tell me I can't. They are responsible for all the misery I've ever seen. That's good enough for me. It's because my daddy ain't got no power that my mama's dead, and my daddy ain't got no power because he's black. And the only way a black man is ever going to get any power is to drive all them white people right into the sea.
You're going to make yourself sick. You're going to make yourself sick with hatred.
I'm going to make myself well with hatred.
It can't be done.
Yeah.
It can never be done. Hatred is a poison, Richard.
Well, not for me, Grandmama.
Untight, Sam!